What's up, y'all? I just tried to film this and I got 3 minutes 52 seconds into it, and the device that I'm filming this on said storage space full, because this device is doing things that I would say are silly and claiming that storage is full when I don't even know where it's coming from, and all of a sudden it'll say there's like 20 gigabyte of something, and I clear something that doesn't even seem like there's anything there, and then it fixes it. And that's just how it's been sometimes in the past recent time. But here's your little intro with Frank the Guitar. There's Frank the Guitar, my little Yamaha CGS 102A. Yes, custom radius done by me. And here's the thing is, I've never had it happen like that, because what I do is I'm very intentional about making sure that I make enough space to start filming an episode so that I can know that I have at least enough to where I get like 30, 40 minutes into it, and then if it cuts off, it cuts off, but at least I can get like a pretty decent discussion in. I've discussed in past episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast what I used to film these with. It's this little cell phone that's not got a whole lot of storage space compared to modern cell phones, but that's okay as long as I can do what I can do, right? To make enough for the episode that I need to film. But anyway, yeah, I just want to be transparent because nobody would know unless I said anything, and it's not that you would need to, but yeah, it was kind of weird that happened. And the reason I mention it, other than just there's some context of what happened, is because I think that it's sort of like, something I got to push through and make sure that I really make this episode, because this is a really hard-hitting, really, real episode, and we'll get into it. This is episode 62 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and this is titled, I Didn't Design It, I Can't Decide It. And we'll get into this. We'll get into all the things that we do. I can't see the numbers currently of how long this is, but it's probably somewhere around the length of time that I got into with the first time I tried to film this, which was just about 2 minutes before I started this. Well, when I ended it, because it was the length that I said. So, yeah, In the Image Clothing Company is what we are. This is our podcast, In the Image Clothing Company podcast, where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's the truth of all things. Don't believe me. I always say, don't believe me, Evan Strong, just because I'm saying something. Don't believe him or her or that guy or this girl. Well, that's the same thing as what I said right before that. But don't, right? I mean, I don't want to believe anybody else either. I just want truth. And our God is the one who is the truth. Jesus the Christ. The same yesterday, today, and forever. So we discuss universal, unchanging, eternal truths here, but we're also sinful by nature human beings. We're all equals, and I mess up, and I always will. I always have. Even when I didn't want to believe that I did in times because I wanted to be all perfect, I never will be perfect. No matter who wants me to be, hey, calm down, And no matter if I ever thought that I wanted to be, it's not going to happen. And that's the beautiful thing about it, because we have a perfect God. So we discuss the gospel here. But we also have three sides as a whole. So there's two other sides. The main side of In the Image Clothing Company is one of the thirds. And I call it the main side because that's like our central, this is what the company really is. But then through everything, we discuss the gospel of Jesus Christ. On the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, we discuss the anatomy of the human body. I talk about the body. We talk about it from the skeletal system because the fat content and the muscle mass are both things that get focused a lot on. A lot of focus gets placed onto them, but also they're both things that just change as we go through our lives. And our skeletal system doesn't. It grows from, when we're born until we're full grown, but then at that point it doesn't ever change. Take it with a grain of salt, but not the way that those other two things can change. So the body's just about its natural foundation, its natural position and everything. Every joint in the body only connects to the next one the way that it does. Every function in the body physically only does what it does. We can't ever get our bodies to do anything. And that's exactly what this title is, right? We'll get into it. So we discuss clothing over there. And the whole thing is with clothing and the human being, they're connected, right? I mean, the human body is just a mechanical machine, and it just has to have the operations that it does without being altered, and then we place something onto it. And if it's not sitting in the locations where the body's going to just hinge and rotate and pivot and move, then the clothing is going to alter the body's only functions that we didn't design, right? We'll get into this. Now, Yeah, so we give free modifications that you can do within your clothing because clothing designs are so similar across the globe. They happen for decades, but then as they change, they stay that way for a while. And we live in a modern 2025. Today's the 17th of February, 2025, where we ship things across the globe. In the past, like hundreds and thousands of years back, clothing looked different on different parts of the earth, and there's certain things that didn't really mix across the globe because unless you really actually took a boat and shipped your way across the whole ocean to get to the other continent or whatever you were trying to get to, like another part of the globe, it wouldn't be able to get there. Your ideas or the designs or the clothing itself. And so, or anything. It doesn't have to just be clothing if we're just discussing how, life has changed for human beings in that way. But nowadays we have airplanes, we have next day shipping, 2 degrees. I mean, I don't know if you can get all the way across the entire globe, next day air or whatever, but we have a lot of things that just, we share things across the globe. We have the internet, which didn't exist even pretty recently back, just decades back. There was no such thing. So clothing is the same across the globe, and even if it's different in the design, oversized clothing is going to pull on the body the way that it does. It's going to pull the body down, but also it'll fall to the dominant side of the human being because if you're always using one side more than the other because like you're right-handed, which 85% give or take of the population of our whole earth is, then when you're doing things and reaching and moving with your right hand, the clothing's going to fall toward that side. Also, it's going to get stretched more on that side. Ideally, there's no stretch within clothing at all, but right, I mean, any kind of wear or anything that does happen, potentially more on the side you're using the most. And so, yeah, we just talk about clothing and how it gets us into these chronic patternings. This persistent pain that people are having and experiencing across the whole earth, it's because of their clothing. Unless you've had an injury or you actually know a reason of something that happened or some kind of like illness internally, maybe, right? Otherwise, it's clothing. It's the only thing that's placed on your physical body. So if we're addressing physical pain, physical scar tissue and patternings and inability to move and lack of rotation and range of motion, is clothing. There's no opinion to it. We don't have opinions here, ideally. Like I said, don't believe me. Truly, don't, please. We're just trying to discuss truth. So take the truth within what we say, not our words because somebody here says it. Whether it's me, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, Evan Strong, or anybody else with the team. Don't just believe us, please. It's just the truth, though. But we discuss things like sleeping naturally, eating naturally, staying hydrated, and what it really means to be hydrated. Because water doesn't hydrate a human being. Water just gets used to do the functions that water does in the body, lubricate things. It doesn't actually benefit the body as far as there's nothing that gets extracted from water. It's just 1 part hydrogen and 2 parts oxygen. Those things aren't going to hydrate you. They're really not. It's minerals that hydrate you and electrolytes and things that are within stuff like, fruit and vegetables and, natural stuff that the body can actually use and use to hold on to the water so that the water can be used the way that it's going to be for the function that water helps with. All the things that water does throughout the body. Water's not the thing that hydrates us as human beings. Because hydration is just a word. Hydration really kind of means, I don't want to put just like a label on it as if this is cut and dry how it is, but really hydration is the body able to regulate the amount of liquids that it has. It's not about just having a certain amount intake because the body regulates its systems by itself, but it has to be able to do that the only way that it does. We didn't design it. We can't decide it. This is really cool. We get into all this kind of stuff. And then we have In The Image Clothing Company music, the other third of our 3/3. And that's where you'll see, at this time at least, Frank the guitar. I discuss setups of guitars to mesh with the only way the human hands work and the whole body as a whole because, the hand is essentially the shoulder. And so once you get a guitar that's shaped like the human body isn't, it's going to alter the entire body all the way down to the arches in our feet. So we talk about that kind of stuff. I make music there. And anything else we do get into music-wise, there is where we do that. Positions of the body, right? Singing and all the things that we're going to be doing musically as a fleshly being that is the human being. So there we go. Because of those things, though, that talking about how the body really only does the thing that it does, clothing being placed on our bodies, it has to be in the right angles. It's got to be sitting on the body the only way the skeletal system is going to actually operate. Otherwise, it's going to pull the body in weird ways or push on it, or gravity is going to pull on the items of clothing that are on us, and that's going to change the body. You introduce ropes onto the bodies, shoelaces, drawstrings, whatever else it is. That's potentially very, very, very altering, right? You're just tying knots at that point around the circumference of parts of your body, or to, cinch something else onto parts of your body. So clothing for everybody, no opinion of mine, no kind of fashion thing. You don't got to be into clothing in any kind of way other than just like it's the only thing that's placed on you physically. If you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're tall, if you're short, if you're skinny, if you're fat, if you're any age, if you're from this part of the globe or that part of the globe, or if you live 5,000 years ago, you're probably not listening to this, but if you live 5,000 years in the future and have the opportunity to, it always will apply, and modern day, but we're always only now and one eternal round. So here we go. The pants that we wear, they need to be all the way up above our hips, entirely above them, otherwise they're restricting the hips. The waistband angle needs to be higher in the front, just slightly, because the core muscles, what we think about as like a 6-pack, an 8-pack, the abdominal muscles, the central part of our torso in the front, whatever you want to say, right? It's got to stay contracted to be activated. Contracted means shortened. That's how muscles work. They pull two ends of something together. They have an insertion on both ends and they pull together. Muscles don't push apart. So in order to keep the core in the state it would always naturally be, I relate the core of a human being to the core of an apple. There's no apple. If there's no core, you remove the seeds in the central part of the apple, and the apple withers away and dies. The human body, if you don't have the core activated in every aspect of being alive as a human being, the whole body's suffering. But a lot of people are actually in that state. I was for years and years, probably like 2 decades, give or take. Now, yeah, so that's just the angle that has to be in to allow that to happen. Otherwise, if it's in any other angle, it's just going to pull on the muscles. You have a belt buckle in the front of your pants. You got things in the front of your pockets. You got the pant designs that just sit either higher in the rear or lower in the front. It's the same thing, right? That's going to just alter your entire body. So, yeah, that's how it's got to be. The way that I said. Slightly only higher in the front than the rear for the waistband of our pants, all the way above the hips. Now, the tops that we wear, doesn't matter what kind of top it is, anything that goes on the torso of your body that we could call clothing, the seams on top of our shoulders need to sit evenly behind those 2 little bones that are up at the very top of the shoulders. Well, there's one, but on 2 shoulders, right? These little bones up here, the seams sit behind those because the shoulders sit behind the body. The upper traps connecting to the very rear of the base of the skull and even the edges of the spine. All the muscles on the rear of the body that are just actually causing the body to be able to work, allowing it to, right? You have upper traps, mid traps, and lower traps. Those are all trapezius muscles. You've got those really big muscles on the back called the lats, latissimus dorsi. You've got just a lot going on. We get into the anatomy of the body in depth on the main side of In The Image Clothing Company and in certain episodes of the podcast as well, In The Image Clothing Company Podcast. But yeah, that's where clothing needs to sit as far as the top seams of our shoulders, but then ideally just right at the very edges of our shoulders as well for those edge seams, because that's where the shoulder moves. And your shoulder's going to only move where it's going to move. We didn't design it. We can't decide it. And so if you're wearing an oversized shirt and your seams are falling down farther than where your pivot point of your shoulder ball and socket joint is, you're never going to be free of pain because that thing's just causing pain, meaning the item of clothing placed on your top, the top of you. So there we go. In The Image Clothing Company has 2 prerequisites just to allow the body to be further unaltered, because we also do other things other than just have seams in our clothing that need to be sitting in a certain location. We have things in modern 2025 and potentially going forward for X amount of who knows, called tags. There was no such thing as clothing tags in the past, even just decades back, and then ever before then. It wasn't a legal thing to have to put information about what we nowadays are doing within clothing. But now it is at this time period, and it has been for a few decades. So tags, if they're protruding within the clothing, meaning like sticking out, they're causing an unnatural gap and physically altering the position of the skeletal system of the human being. But also just anything that's placed there, especially if it's a slippery synthetic man-made material, which also didn't even exist within the past 100 years, and then ever before then, the synthetic material that clothing is made out of nowadays, it didn't even exist. There's people who have been alive when plastic was invented that are still alive today. Yes. So here's the thing. I mean, it's like the 1920s, give or take. I mean, if I'm not so perfectly correct about something or what, then cool. But you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I remember my grandparents talking about when they, like my grandparents that are both dead now. I remember they talked about plastic. Like, yeah, they came out with this cellophane and plastic stuff, and then everything changed the way they packaged things and stuff. Yeah, I mean, everything was just packaged different. Like food, for example, in the past, these materials did not even exist. Very new. So, the effect that they're having on human bodies is only as old as the materials themselves. So a lot of this stuff is new that we talk about within In the Image Clothing Company. But then, the world gets more progressively actually unnatural as we go. And that's just been prophesied about. Again, the gospel of Jesus Christ is the truth of all things. Don't believe me. But here's the thing. We don't need to have synthetic slippery stuff against the body because the muscles of the body can't activate against something that's that unnaturally, weirdly slippery. The body loves texture because nature is textured. So we remove all tags from clothing. That does include the tongues of the shoes or anywhere inside the shoes because those ankles, that neutral ankle and the gripped arches within our feet, they won't be able to be there if they're being pressed against something slippery that they can't predict and they can't activate against, and so the musculature of the body will actually just deactivate. And there we go. Anything within the body is not working correct. Something else and many things have to compensate in some form because the body only can work as a whole. It's all connected to itself, and that's how it's designed to be. And guess what? The episode title is We Didn't Design It, We Can't Decide It, right? So, we also, though, have a second prerequisite as in the Image Clothing Company, in addition to removing all tags, our shoelacing technique that we use. Because the human foot's only shaped the way that it is. We didn't design it, we can't decide it. So we have a shoelacing technique that we use. It's not about us, but it's just, the only way you're going to take a rope and weave it between what we call eyelets of what we call shoes on the top of our feet that we didn't design and we can't decide how they work, and it's going to allow that to be shaped the way that the top of the human foot is. So find that where you find us, in the Image Clothing Company, and with that we tie our shoes evenly over toward the inside to the center line of the body, because there is no belief, no opinion, no yoga class. The body has a spine where it's fed the nervous system through from the brain down the brainstem and out through the entire body. There's a sternum in the front of the body. There's a nose in the center as well. It has one. The earth pulls us down with gravity just from the center of our being, and we don't have a say over that. We didn't design the globe. We didn't get to decide if the gravity that it has is going to do something that we want or not. It just does what it does. So there we go. All right, now let's get into this, because that's the whole thing. There's a lot of things in our lives that we want to be a certain way. And, certain ones of us, as in certain individual human beings, and at certain times, and maybe if we're feeling certain ways, getting a little bit desperate because something doesn't seem to be going how we were going to hope that it was, because that way we might feel a little bit secure, maybe, potentially. But then, still we're always going to be feeling like we need more, potentially, because we're human beings. We're conditional, and we're not in charge, right? But the whole thing, before I get into any kind of specifics about anything, because we'll talk about what we do, and we'll get into this, and it'll be really great, the discussions that we have within this episode here, episode 62 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, titled We Didn't Design It, So We Can't Decide It. But the big thing is, as specific as you want to get, you can just say bluntly, boldly, and not because it's my opinion, because it isn't, actually, is the reason I can say it. There's a plan for this whole thing, this whole earthly existence. You're looking around, you're trying to figure out what's going on. Well, like I say, the gospel of Jesus Christ is the truth of all things. And our God designed a plan. He designed a way for things to be. He designed us the way he did. He designed us to sin. He designed us to mess up. Since the very first human, that was actually his plan, is for him to sin, to partake of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And he said, don't do this, but it's our all-knowing, perfect, almighty God, and he knew he was going to do it. It was actually his plan for Adam to do exactly the opposite thing that he told him to. Adam was the first human being, right? But he designed the plan. He designed the plan to be, hey, I'm perfect, says our God, and all you human beings are not. Rely on me. I'm going to send you down here, or over here, or up here, wherever the earth is compared to, where heaven is, and we can get all debating about whatever we want, all we want, but Why? When we can just look at things as simple as they are. Nobody doesn't mess up. People try to sometimes convince other people that they don't mess up. And I've dealt with that with other people all the time in my past. That was not fun. And all the times that I do. I mean, even, today it could potentially happen, and going forward it will always have the potential to happen. We're human beings, and some people just like to believe themselves that they don't mess up, but they especially like to convince other people that they don't. But our God made a plan that we're supposed to mess up, because then we can rely on Him. Because He sent us somewhere where we don't actually get to physically, like visually see Him. I'm not saying you can't. I mean, everyone, it's not up to me to say. But most all of us don't in our lives and haven't actually like visually seen our God as He is, right? Jesus Christ, the man Himself, the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. They're all the same. It's Jesus Christ Himself. Kind of confusing, but hey, that's what I mean. We're human beings. We're sent here with a plan of kind of like being partially blind and walking around and relying on somebody who knows the whole environment perfectly to hold our hand through it. That's our God. He designed it this way. He designed this plan. And that's it. As far as no matter what else, like I said, we can get into specifics. We can talk about things all nitpicky all we want, and this and that and those and they and thou and thee. I don't know. I just want to make it silly in the sense of how in most cases it's actually pointless to get a little bit, nitpicky on some things, right? And I mean, take that with a grain of salt and hear it correct, but the whole point, what I mean is, when we get down to it, if there's things that we just want to be a certain way, but we didn't make it, well, you can wish and hope and want all you want, see? All you wish, you know? All the hopes you can have, stacking hopes to the ceiling, hoping that maybe I can change something that I didn't make, no matter what it is, but you're not going to. I mean, you buy a car that somebody else made, a vehicle, something that can give you transportation that's much quicker than walking or riding a bicycle, right? A horse, sled dogs. Shout out to Alaska, right? I mean, I've talked about that show I've been watching. TV show, for real. On the Alaskans, man, yeah, got sled dogs, Australian Huskies. They used to pull these little just sleds people stand on. But you buy a vehicle from somebody who designed that thing. It wasn't you that designed it. They designed that engine and all the parts and workings of the vehicle to run on a certain type of fuel. And so you can think all you want that you can put whatever you want in the tank of that system that's going to feed the engine and try to get that thing to make it operate. It's not going to happen. That vehicle you've purchased by somebody else that they designed is only going to run on the fuel that they designed it to run on. You can try to put whatever you want in the tank, hoping, wishing, wanting, trying to be in charge, trying to be right about something, right? Trying to change something, trying to claim that you can do things on your own, and you can't. It only does what it does. The human body only does what it does. The human being, hear this, we're here to die. Who do you know that's lived forever? I know one. Jesus Christ. But here's the thing, is there's a plan set in place where he had to die first, but then he got resurrected. Now he's living forever. I mean, how real do we want to get? Don't believe me on anything, please. But we didn't design this plan. I mean, you want to try to be doing all you want to do that you can't? I'm sorry, but it's going to be so much easier to just stop trying to do anything that's different than the truth. I don't get to tell you something other than relaying it, but I don't decide it. I can't, right? That's the title. I didn't design it. I can't decide it. So the human body, and we've got, we talk about things the way that we do, man. Bluntly, boldly, as they are, because it's not about me, Truly, it's not. I can't make something about me that I didn't even design, right? You see what I'm saying? The human body only works the way that it does. I didn't design it. I can't decide it. So, all the things that we show, Except for the times that we're messing up on saying something, maybe, or maybe a little bit misunderstood in certain ways, which is always going to happen, no matter what. I could be the most knowledgeable, understanding human being on the anatomy of the human body on the earth, right? Potentially that could happen. Why not, And even at that point, I can still say something wrong or, mess up in this way, that way, and whatever. But it doesn't even matter because, I can tell you whatever I want, but you've got your own body. I didn't design mine, but I also didn't design yours. I didn't design anybody's. Even my own children when I have them. I'm not designing their bodies. I think people think a lot of times nowadays, people are pretty darn crazy. I'm not calling names, but you call a spade, I didn't design a spade, but that's what it is, so I can't decide what to call it, See what I'm saying? A lot of times nowadays, people are trying to think they can do whatever they want, man, and they can get their bodies to do something that it's never going to do. You can't. Try all you want. You're going to be in just pain, right? You can do whatever you want with repercussions. We talk about that, not because I say so. It's the truth of all things, the gospel of Jesus Christ. You can go drive your car at 700 RPM. I was going to say miles per hour, but I don't think vehicles are going to go that fast without coming off the ground, probably. But you can go drive your car at 120 miles an hour down the highway if you have one that goes that fast. And you can. Yes, you can do that. Do it. Go do it. But consequences. Either you get caught by the law enforcement or whoever's in charge of whatever, where you're at, and you get some kind of you got to pay some money, some currency to them, because you did something that you're not supposed to be doing in that area. Or you can't turn sharp enough and all of a sudden, now you're 40 feet in the air in the middle of flipping that car 8 times. You can do whatever you want, but there's consequences. Right? Within the human body, yeah, you can put all the implants in it you want. Right? People are doing that nowadays. That is disgusting. If that offends you, cool. Stick around. We can't change something we didn't design. You didn't design your body. You can't decide that you're going to put this into it that's artificial, or even if you're trying to make it something natural, it's unnatural for it to be in there. It's not going to work correct. You're going to have complications. Right? Sure, you can do it, but now you've got physical pain and potentially, more from the inside out of the body, right? Yeah, sure, your car can go 120 miles an hour, and sure, nobody's going to stop you up until it happens, and a telephone pole does, right? We didn't design the law enforcement system in whatever area we're in, regardless of how that looks where you're at, maybe you're a part of it, and maybe, yeah, in some ways you've had, a little bit of, hand in making it what it is, but I didn't design the way that the United States of America is laid out, so I can't decide that I'm going to just oppose the law without some kind of consequence coming up to me. That's how it should be. So, you can't do anything within the body that's not the way that it's designed to be working. We address the human body, but I want to focus a lot within other things for this episode 62 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, because we didn't design a lot of things, so we can't decide how they work. We didn't design the way that anything works here, man. We're just placed onto this earth, So a lot of times we're trying to just decide that we can do whatever we want, and you can't. We didn't design it, we can't decide it. Well, I think that's the case with a lot of things, A lot of people look at stuff and they're upset with it because it's not doing what they want, but it's just something that's designed to do what it's doing. They'll look at again, we can get as specific as we want with whatever we want, but the whole point is, if you didn't make something, then you can't decide how it works without you personally altering that thing. But then if you alter that thing, it's not what it was in the beginning. You know, we didn't design our personalities. As much as we think that we can kind of choose who we are at times in our lives, it's the truth that we can't. You know, that's funny because I changed so much, but really I don't. I'm the same kid because I was looking yesterday at this photo on the wall in this house. There's a photograph of me and my cousins. You know, I was probably somewhere around 4 or 5 years old. And I was like, yeah, I mean, as much as I change, I don't change. I'm still the same kid that my God designed. And I can feel it. And I can see it. No matter what I want to believe or what I want to try to be, I didn't design who I am. And so I'm only that thing. I can't decide to be anything else without it just not working and coming with complications. You know, and there's been times in my life where I've tried to. And that's when I hit that whole, it's not working, coming with complications, right? So, yeah, we didn't design it, man. You know, the earth is crazy, dude. There's so much going on this earth. We got animals and plants just like doing their thing, whether we were here or not. We didn't design how any of that's working. So we can't decide to go out there and make it be something that it's not. I'm going to touch on this a bit. You know, global warming is this whole topic about people thinking like it's a political thing. What's a political thing when you're out there trying to drink water and you can't because it's toxic? I mean, there's no kind of politics that just goes into truth. Global warming is going on, and I don't have some kind of side to it. It's just, I mean, go find some real, actual, credible sources. Go out there yourself with your own 2 feet if you can walk on them, and go take some samples of this and that, and compare it to past times or whatever, right? I mean, however much of that is because of what we're doing and because of the way the world is nowadays, as far as the man-made world, versus however much of that is just that the earth itself has cycles to it. I mean, that's something, again, we didn't design, we can't decide. It's like he's trying to say you don't want winter to come, and, well, it doesn't matter what you want. It doesn't matter what I want either. I'm not talking, you know, like I'm above anybody else, because I'm not. But, you know, the earth does cycle in the ways that it does. But then also how much of it is just the fact that, and notice I use the word fact, and, you know, that word gets tossed around all the time. Sometimes we do too, though, without the truth. You know, Peter in the Bible, he was getting tossed around on the waves in his boat, and Jesus Christ was walking across the water to him, and he said, "Hey, Peter, step out. Walk to me. See if you got some faith. See if you can get to me. If you really believe that I am who I say I am," you know, our God says to Peter, "if you can really have some faith," you know, it's not about beliefs. That's why I want to be very clear. But yeah, our God, he's like, my shoulders keep popping, dude. That's good. Just adjustments within my body back to natural. I'm not doing stuff. I'm just allowing it to work, releasing scar tissue from patternings, from clothing. And Christ was talking to Peter, walking on the water to him when Peter was in the boat. He said, "If you have faith that you can walk to me, and I can cause these waves to hold you up, and you can walk on the water as you're seeing me right in front of you do, then do it. Step out of the boat." And Peter started walking on the water toward him, and it was happening. But then Peter's looking around, and he sees the storms on both sides of him rather than looking straight to his living God. Peter is somebody who actually saw Christ face to face, physically. Because, I mean, you know, anybody that did see him when he was here for 33 years. Truthfully, don't believe me, it happened. And so, Peter, yeah, shoulder, man. Peter's looking all over here and all over there, and all of a sudden, you know, oh shoot, losing track of that tunnel vision straight to Christ, right in front of him. Straight and narrow. It's the only way we're getting to heaven. That's the plan. That's what was designed for this to be like, right? We didn't design it. We can't decide it. We can't go through life and be doing this and be doing that and be doing those things and the other ones and you know, trying these things because why not, you know, whatever, and no morals and no values and you know, not looking to Christ without complications, because the whole plan that was designed by the one that designed all this, right? And the human being that is me, looking around at it, and put myself in your shoes, or put yourself in mine, whatever you want to be saying, we're all equals. We don't get to decide that we can do whatever we want. Peter doesn't get to decide to have fear and look at all this stuff over here and all those things over there and still how real do you want to get? We just got to be where we know we got to be. Peter knew Christ. Peter lived with him. Peter was his disciple, his apostle. He went out there. Christ sent him out on missions, teaching everything that he had taught him to the people that he went and was around. The truth of all things, delivered to him by our living God personally. That's pretty rare, man. It's not many people, like I said. I mean, you got about a 33-year, target to hit from coming to this earth to live when Christ was here. He's coming back. Don't believe me, but he is. It's prophesied. Truth of all things. You read some scripture, you look around. Oh, there you go. It's a map. It's the truth of all things. Don't believe Evan Strong just because I'm saying something. This is truth, man. But that's the whole thing, is we can only look to one direction. The whole plan that was designed was, hey, the target is Jesus Christ, and the arrow is our vision, right? In whatever ways that means. Our direction, our intention, our purpose, our time that we spend, our intentionality. All of it, every bit of everything that is that, and whatever it means to be a human being, it all needs to be directed toward Jesus Christ, because that's the plan that was designed by not me. And so I can't decide to do something else and think that life's gonna go fine. I mean, I can decide to do whatever I want until the consequences come up. You can believe you can do whatever you want and get away with it, but you're just not quite realizing that you're living in a constant state of avoidance. That's a state a lot of people are in. We might do a podcast episode titled Avoidance sometime. That's something I'd love to, well, regardless, I do and have loved to discuss that when I have. It's, that's something I've talked about a lot. I've got a lot of understanding about. A lot of people thinking they can just do whatever they want and get away with it, but really what they're doing is constantly running from everything, and they're like never actually like anywhere that they are. They're somewhere else because they can't actually live with themselves or what has happened. But they can't slow down and address it either. But nobody can themselves, right? I mean, I can't. The amount of sins I've done in my past, the amount of things that I've oh, shoot, you know what I mean? I mean, we get talking about it, and I have already quite a lot within past episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. I mean, man, I've messed up and I've voluntarily shared it publicly. I mean, that's what we do. We share our testimonies to strengthen others and our own. But, we can't do anything besides follow the plan as it's designed, because we didn't decide. Well, I mean, what else you want to be doing? You know what I mean? I mean, the earth was designed to have a certain structure and balance to things. And that's something people don't get. And you can't be held accountable for what you don't know. And I didn't know, even to the degree that I do now, until I knew. Right? And it's as obvious as it is once you see it. I say that all the time with stuff, because it is. Again, there's only truth, but if you don't know it, then you don't. But then once you do, it's like, what in the world? I didn't see this the whole time, but it's the exact same thing, and I was just, not understanding it. That's fine. Until it's not fine. Until you're trying to deny stuff or avoid stuff or do whatever you want when, you can't really decide that because you didn't design how it all works. But that's what I'm saying, everything's got its own design. Within nature. Let's talk about coral reef for a second. You're going to turn this off for a second because you're a little bit too politically this way, that way. You're turned around and in some kind of corkscrew direction, tied up in some contortionist knot of, hey, I believe this, but now that. And now you're in a rabbit hole of like thinking you're on some end of politics, but really you're on the other when it comes down to it, There's no such thing as politics. Beliefs change. They come and go. Human beings are just what they are. But here's the thing. And that hits hard. Don't believe me. That's the truth. It's just an accumulation of opinions, but then what they label as this side versus that side X amount of years down the road, it's like they're entirely flipped, but labeled the same thing. It's just how it works, dude. Oh gosh, human beings, here we are, sinful by nature. But here's the thing. That's the thing. That's crazy. We can talk about that all we want. Doesn't matter if we ever said a word about it. I'm gonna say this though. Within an ecosystem like a coral reef, the thing with a coral reef, again, you got a problem with this, you turn it off, you think I'm all this side of that thing and those sides of those, and you're looking at the fact that my head's shaven, you're looking at the fact I wear these type of clothing, you look at the fact that I'm this type of, like, what you think is a religion, and you're like, I don't want to believe this human being. Well, what you don't want to believe is yourself, because that's what's most misleading. Let's look at the truth. It's apart from all of us. In a coral reef, you got like an island. This is the best way to look at it, because that way you can see it on like a smaller scale. But this works with like a continent, right? A whole land mass of any kind. Let's say you got a little island, and around that island, because the water is shallow enough to where the light can protrude through the water and get down to the bottom, you go to the ocean past out where that island is, and it gets deeper to a degree, and sometimes the ocean gets like deep, right? But right around the island, it's pretty shallow, so the light can still get to the bottom and cause life to be there, right? You're not going to grow plants without light. It's just not going to happen. But even the human being, it absorbs light through its skin and all the ways that happens. But a coral reef, it only lives where the light's at. The stuff that's there, it can't grow down in the deeper part of the oceans where it's dark, because the light only makes it so far through the water until it can't anymore. Water is an actual thing. Air is an actual thing as well. That's something we don't think about sometimes too. Like every square or circular inch, right? If you measure just like an inch of space, every one of those, from like where that point is, like you put your palm up and like the center of your palm up to the very top of where there's no more atmosphere in the earth, that weighs a certain amount of weight, the air that's there. We don't think about that. But we didn't design that, so you can't decide to think that that's not real. You know what I'm saying? Stuff just is what it is. So here's the thing. Coral reefs, they have a certain way of working, Certain plants got to grow so that the fish that eat those plants can come in. But the fish don't just eat those plants, but they eat the things off those plants, because there's like algae, bacteria, but like beneficial kind of stuff for the fish that grows on those plants. And so those fish eat that stuff. And then those fish go swim back out in the, deeper parts of the ocean. And then they feed other fish that are larger that don't eat this small stuff that only grows around the coral reef, And so if these fish that are eating the stuff on the coral reef couldn't eat the stuff on the coral reef because the reef wasn't allowed to grow for whatever reason, then the bigger fish out in the ocean don't have the food that they eat, which is these smaller fish when they swim back out there. And so now the coral reef, right, let's say, stopped growing for whatever reason. Those fish that eat that stuff don't have food, and they start dying off. But then now the big fish out in the middle of the ocean don't have their food, which was those little fish, and so they start dying off. And now there you go, But the whole thing is, all this stuff is just going to work how it's going to work until human beings get involved. But we start wiping stuff out. We start going out there, migrating over to the United States of America and shooting all the bison. And they get down to very small numbers and almost go entirely extinct. And then we got to do what we can to try to help it get back to how it's just going to be if we didn't ever interfere in any kind of way. We didn't design the whole, balance of things, but we also can't decide to get in the way of it without our whole earth that's supporting us changing. It's not my opinion. It's just how it is. Don't believe me on this stuff, please, or anything. But it's just, it's just the truth. That's what I'm saying. You go get your buddy who's got a pilot's license and have him fly you out to someplace and just look at things, man. It's just happening. You'll find stuff washing up on the beaches of, anywhere that came from somewhere else. If something's going to be floating and you drop it out on the beach of the edge of wherever you're at, the opposite side of the globe can end up with that thing on its beach. Why not? It's just something floating on water. Water is just where it is and what it is, and it's just going to move if it's going to move. That thing that's placed there, just does what it does, dude. The whole earth that we've been given. And so, all politics aside, all beliefs aside, all religion aside, all opinions aside, all wants aside and desires aside, can we look at some stuff as it is, right? I mean, and the best way to do that is just walking up to a beach. Your feet only work how they do. You didn't design them, you can't decide it. But here's the thing. You're walking on a beach barefooted, the way the human being's gonna naturally work until we try to, make some kind of shoes to put on them, which has their benefits, but also potentially dangerous. Tying shoes uneven, lacing them incorrect and things, right? We talk about that. But you're walking across that beach with the feet that you didn't design, and you step on a piece of glass because somebody else interfered with something they didn't design, which was that the earth doesn't naturally have glass. It's a man-made thing. We can't choose to just make glass and throw it all around the place, let it float all around, the oceans, doing things to the fish that it's potentially doing to the bottom of your feet. I mean, you cut your foot open entirely and you're potentially going to be altered as a human being for the rest of your time here on the earth because we interfered with something that we didn't design. There's no opinion to that. What side of politics are you going to be sitting on when you're sitting in a hospital bed, thinking about the rest of the 60 years you got on this earth with only one foot that actually works? You know what I mean? That's how it is. Don't believe me. But we didn't design it, So we can't decide to just be doing things and thinking that it's just going to keep doing what it's doing because, you put an orange juice in the tank of your car. You didn't design that thing, and whoever did decided to run on gasoline, But now here's the other thing. We're polluting the environment, brother. What side of politics are you going to claim to be sitting on when that's all you can do because you can't even stand up anymore because your lungs are polluted, right? Inside your lungs, what do you got? You got these little things called capillaries, little blood vessels that absorb things the way they do, You got lungs that expand the way they do. You got lungs that are lined with a certain amount of fluid in the way that they do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got tubes that go from the opening of your nostrils down into your lungs or the opening of your mouth down into your lungs and come back out. Your body's doing an exchange of oxygen to carbon dioxide. You didn't decide that. Definitely didn't design it. And so now we're putting stuff in the air that we decided to make, but our human bodies are something we're never going to decide how they work, and they can't breathe in anything besides oxygen without having some kind of complications happening. You breathe in helium, that stuff they put in balloons to cause them to rise higher than they would naturally, because gravity is going to normally pull a balloon down, but you fill that thing with a substance, a type of gas called helium, and that thing goes up higher than, it goes upward, opposing gravity. And you suck in helium, that substance we place into balloons, your voice sounds differently when you exhale, right? It's altering the only way that your body's going to do the thing it's going to do. The thing you didn't design is designed to breathe in oxygen, not a different type of gas, And so that's just helium, dude. I mean, that seems harmless because people go around doing that and sucking it in and breathing it out, making their voice, make sounds, and it's higher pitched and differently sounding than it would normally be. But, that's your choice to put your mouth on the opening of a balloon and suck that in. But, it's not your choice to go outside and have to breathe in pollutants in the air that somebody else was doing, right? I mean, where's it going to go? Can we just take politics and pretend that it doesn't exist for like a second and a half or like for an entire episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast? And we'll do it for this one. How about that? Episode 62. Because we didn't design any of this. So we can't decide to just do what we want without complications. Here's the thing. I've talked about so often how I love brown bears, and there's actually no brown bears in Utah at this time, but in the past there was. But they were all hunted off. And now they're not even on this part of the earth. The state of Utah, the United States of America. I think it was a little over 100 years the last brown bear was here. And we've got brown bears in other parts, coastal brown bears, grizzly bears, Kodiak bears. They're just, types and subspecies of brown bears. I love brown bears. But here's the thing. I mean, I can't be saying, because unless we, rewind the tape and try it again, which we can't do, right? That's the whole thing. That's the whole catch about it, brother. I mean, we can't do that. But unless we did, I mean, I guess we wouldn't know for sure. But if human beings hadn't been involved and started hunting all the bears off, I'm pretty sure they'd probably have I could be wrong, but let's just say they still had a good balance of predator versus prey. And those bears were just still eating the animals they were eating, and there was the balance that was just naturally there. But now those bears don't even exist in this part of the earth. And because of that, they don't do the things that they do. You got things like, my shoulder keeps popping, brother. Even in the feces of animals, in the scat, right, in the bowel movement. I just want to be, real about what it is. Animals eat things, human beings eat things, and it comes out of us, I mean, if we just kept eating things and it didn't come back out, we just keep getting bigger. That'd be nuts, dude. I mean, the body's got its digestive system and its endocrine system, and it excretes things out of it once it ingests things into it and uses it for what it needs it for. And what actually happens a lot of the time is that stuff really, really benefits the environment, And so an animal will eat something in a certain location and walk over there a little ways, but let's say it ate like a flower, and within that flower it's got seeds. And now it walks X amount of distance and it comes out of the animal, right? The bowel movement, the scat, right? And now when that gets placed back onto the earth, those seeds now grow in that location. And so everything just has its balance, and it has to. I didn't design it. I can't decide it, but that's how it works. Somebody did design this. Our God, Jesus Christ, designed all this. Read Genesis. Read the first book of the Bible, right? Here's the thing, brother. Here's the thing, brother. It just lays out in Genesis a lot of, the first 7 days of our God creating everything. And he did. Don't believe me, but he did. I mean, there's no kind of other type of explanation to something. Because the whole thing is people want there to be. Because they're not okay with not knowing. Right? We got to be okay with not knowing. Because we're never going to know. All these scientists out here, they're trying to figure everything out. But you can try all you want. But you'll just keep trying. And keep trying. And keep trying. And if your goal is to want to know everything, well, you never will. And so give up and have some faith. Have some faith knowing that, hey, maybe I'm never going to understand all this fully, but it just is what it is, and it's doing its thing. Yeah, man, you're never going to know. I mean, you didn't design it. You're not even going to learn about it all, dude. I mean, people don't even know how their own body works. They're trying to figure out how the whole ecosystem's going to function, Don't worry about it. Just let it do its thing. Learn enough about it how to not restrict it. That's what the Image Clothing Company does with the human body. We're never trying to tell you anything to do to your body. Never could we do something to our body that we didn't design. But we learn about it enough to know how to let it do its thing. I mean, we need to learn about the things that we need to learn about, as far as if we're doing things that are potentially altering something else, we gotta know that that's happening, because we can't be doing that without complications. So, I mean, just thinking about like those brown bears that were in Utah, for example, it could be any animal, it could be any kind of thing, natural in the environment or whatever, in any kind of location of the earth. But, those bears were causing a balance of what they were eating, the animals that they were eating, the plants that they were eating, and then, like I'm saying, scattering those seeds from those plants as they walk, the bear, after it's eaten it, and then it bowel movements that thing out, the seed, and it grows and it spreads. And there's a balance to things that we didn't decide. But human beings definitely like to interfere with that balance. And that's causing a lot of problems, brother. I mean, how political you want to get before, before you realize it doesn't matter. We didn't design it, dude. We can't decide it. We can't decide to have an opinion on something and think it's going to change what that thing is. Things are just what they are, brother. Don't believe me. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's awesome, though, dude. I mean, just is what it is. Just is what it is. I mean, elephants, elephants, man, they're what cause the environment to be what it is for that reason that I'm saying. They'll be eating trees and they'll walk around and their bowel movements, their scat, is like planting trees in locations where they wouldn't be otherwise. Because elephants would do a lot of walking, man. Any animal that does that, that's the case. That's just how it is. We didn't decide how any of this works, dude. But that's the thing is, a lot of times we just go into our kitchen sink or into that, refrigerator with the water dispenser in it. Or we go down to the grocery store and we grab a container that's filled with water, and it's usually plastic, which is more ironic than I could even understand. It's hilarious. It's insane. It's unreal, but it's how it is. But a lot of us just think that water is just what it is and it's just coming from the tap. But what does that mean? You didn't design that tap. Probably. I mean, unless you're like the plumber, right? But you probably just bought a house and it's got a tap in it, if that's your situation. Because the whole point is maybe you don't even know where that's coming from. But if you had to get your own water, as in you had to go out there, and let's say there's no building that was built and there was no kind of pipe that was bringing that water from just where it is naturally to this man-made house, and you just had to go get your water, you'd be pretty well aware of, hey, in that case, now there's no kind of person, there's no kind of city system or structure that's like filtering our water. Somebody designed all these filters. Somebody designed all these pathways and pipes and things that are traveling the water from where it just naturally was into the house that has now been built by a human being. But you didn't design any of that. And so you can't decide how any of that works. But the whole thing is, we don't realize that there's that in-between process a lot of the time as human beings. And so if none of that was there, if other human beings hadn't got in between us and nature, then we'd just have to go out there and just find water to drink. And at that point, we'd start to realize you can't just be drinking out of any kind of water. You don't want to be drinking out of some kind of like still sitting water that's got, you know what I mean? You got to be very intentional. I mean, what do you got? You got frogs in there that are doing their feces in the water, man. And you don't want to be drinking that necessarily, But then you got this water over here that looks just pretty darn muddy and murky. And now what are you drinking, But then you got a waterfall over here, and that's fine. This looks nice and clear and flowing. But then right up on top of the hill up there, you got an animal that just killed another animal because it was eating and just, getting sustenance. And so now you got blood from that animal that's been sitting out in the sun for 3-4 days, and the ravens have been eating on it. Just the birds, the birds of prey are picking it off. The vultures are eating at what's left. You got all sorts of stuff going on up there. Maggots now growing on that stuff, flowing down the water. And it looks all nice and clear, but who's to say? Because we didn't design how all this works. So we can't decide to just do whatever we want. But here's the thing. That kind of stuff's natural. That kind of stuff's happening. And yeah, sure, you can get some pretty, potentially gross water naturally, right? For those reasons. But now let's think about this kind of thing. We've got stuff like chemicals nowadays, oil nowadays. I mentioned gasoline nowadays. Plastic is oil. And we put all this stuff out there into our water. And now, as gross as you could think all that other stuff was that I described, that's natural. That's going to happen whether there's a human being here or not. But then, living beings that just require water to do the function that water does within the human body, or the animal body, right? Your dog's not going to live either if you don't give him some kind of hydration. Your cat, your orangutan, if you got one of those, you probably got to have some kind of special permit, I'm just saying, dude, I mean, those things are natural, Animal carcasses bleeding into water, fungus living on water, animal feces in water, murky water because of the mud, whatever it is, all that stuff's going to be there and always has been. But what hasn't been there is this toxic chemicals. And if that stuff gets bled into the water, where's it going to go? Where's it going to go? It's something that's been unnaturally put together. We take two substances or whatever and we heat it up at an unnatural temperature that would never really happen. I mean, yeah, sure, there's some hot stuff, man. In the center of the earth, you got lava, you got magma coming out of the earth. But it's not going to just pick two very specific things or 5 of them or 35 when you sit there and actually read the ingredient label of what's in this stuff that's been so randomly placed together and heated up in this furnace and melted down into something we call a cleaner. But it's dirtier than anything you'd ever come across in nature as far as what it's going to do to your fleshly being, And now that stuff's just out there seeping into the earth. Where does the water come from? We didn't design it. We can't decide it. Water's got a cycle. Water's just out there, and it's on the ground, and it evaporates. The sun comes down, it heats up the water molecules go into the air. That's crazy to me, but it's just how it's working. I can't tell you something if that's really what it is. The truth is truth. I didn't design that, but that's, I can't decide it. Water evaporates, it's in the clouds, it's going all around. That's what a cloud is an accumulation of water that we can visually see. Once it gets too heavy, it falls down to the earth again. Precipitation, right? And now it's back on the ground. And so as that's all happening, water's just getting cycled and circled through all the things. And so you park your car at the grocery store parking lot, dude, and it's dripping oil. This man-made thing that's been refined in the ways that's so very unnatural. Pumped out of the earth, where it was just sitting there, not altering other things. It was just in its own location where it was naturally at. The root of what oil really is before you then pump it out of that location from drilling into the earth and getting it and then refining it and putting it through all this weird processing that never would happen ever and makes it something that's absolutely toxic if you were to drink it or get it on your skin even. It seeps into your pores and into your body. If you get it in your eyes, you can go blind. But now it's on the parking lot at the grocery store because it's leaked out of your car. There's just something that a human being put together out of materials that are God designed. And we decided to try to make something out of it. And in a lot of ways, it's very beneficial that these vehicles can take us places. But now it rains, right? You got that oil in the parking lot mixing with the water on the parking lot. And now it precipitates. Oh, that's what happened when the rain came. Now it evaporates, goes back up into the clouds, and those clouds then get blown by the wind. Because we didn't design how all that works as far as, wind. It's going to do what it's going to do. We try to take advantage of it the best we can. Wind turbines and things, right? To then make electricity. It's something that's not quite there in the way that it is until we harness it, right? If you want to word it that way. We're really trying to just create something. Naturally there's electricity in the ways that there is. So static electricity, lightning, whatever. But human beings, man, they do some pretty unnatural things. I'm one of them. Once that oil evaporates and becomes a cloud, and now it's getting blown by the wind to another part of the earth, that oil is now coming down, precipitating, raining again, right? It's just that cycle that water does that we didn't design and we can't decide. And so now the oil that's just, it's no harm. I put it in my bucket and left it open on the ground, and then, what? The cat comes along and drinks it? Or your kid's running around and accidentally spills it into the earth? It ends up somewhere else, dude. This is all just one earth, You can get thinking about walls all you want until the wind blows them over. You really like politics? It's not a real thing. Don't believe me. Check out InTheImageClothingCompanyPodcast. You offended? Stick around. You know what I'm saying? It's just truth. Don't believe me. So the whole thing is, I mean, we're doing a lot, man, to alter the way that this earth is going to be. Because you think you got stuff all contained until you realize you don't, you know what I mean? I mean, what are you containing when, yeah, sure, you're in your garage, you know, oh gosh, man. Doing an antifreeze flush on your truck, on the coolant of your vehicle, right? A man-made substance, the stuff you put in there that does what it does. I don't want to get so into, you know, description on that, but it just allows the vehicle to work at lower temperatures than the engine would want to otherwise, right? Because water would freeze at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, but then or 0 degrees Celsius. And then we make this stuff we call antifreeze, right? Call it coolant, but put in engines of vehicles that we've created as human beings, which we didn't really create. We just took pieces of other stuff, put it together in there, and we call it a car. You know, but then you flush that stuff out to just get newer stuff in there because it's, you know, been a little bit contaminated itself over time, right? And you think you got it all contained in the container that you've got on your floor, but then there's some on your hands, right? And so you go in the house and now you've washed your hands and all that coolant that was on them, the antifreeze, down the drain. Where's that drain going? You ever seen Finding Nemo by, it's either Disney or Pixar, right? I don't know exactly, but in there they said, all drains lead to the ocean. I mean, where else is water going to go? You know what I'm saying? Because you can know by now. I've discussed how the water cycle works. Don't believe me, but you walk outside and all of a sudden there's stuff coming from the sky that you could potentially drink if it's clean enough. It's water. But it's not clean enough usually nowadays. Because of human beings. All politics aside. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, dude? Don't believe me. Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company. I'm just speaking truth, you know? How offended you want to get, bro? Because I'm pretty offended the way that people are treating my planet. Because I didn't design it. But I also can't decide when people are overstepping onto my property. My property is my own body. It's the only thing that I actually own. And it requires certain things. And if those things are altered because of something that another human being has done, then hey, guess what? You know, you can do whatever you want until the consequences come. That's what I'm saying, right? We didn't design it. We can't decide it. So it just is what it is, dude. And we can get into all the discussions of whatever we want, as deep as we want to be able to try to think that we can. But, you know, global warming. Don't believe me, but it's a real thing. It's a real thing, dude. It's just a real thing, brother. Yeah, bro. How political am I, right? I mean, what do you want to say, you know? I mean, who you really against? Because you're not for anything besides contention, you know? You're only right till you realize you can't ever be, right? Everybody knows what they're doing till they don't. I'm gonna kind of move a little bit, dude. Get my legs crossed up like this, you know? Just kind of chill out. I'm chill, I just mean like physically. Like I'm just relaxing on this one, man, because we only get one Earth. It's raining. You might be able to hear that. I just started hearing that after I crossed my legs. After I just said I'm relaxing on this, I'm hearing rain hit the window. In February, in Utah, it's winter. We get snow. That's most certainly rain. It's actually rained, you know, a couple days ago, but you can probably hear that. If not, whatever. But it's raining. Don't let me try to tell you something. Like if you can't hear it, I'm not trying to make something be something. It's very rare for it to rain in Utah. United States of America. You know, I mean, we didn't design it, man. We can't decide it. That's the other thing, you know. I mean, what you got some kind of plan out in the outside, right? You're saying, hey, it's got to be a sunny day because I'm going to do this kind of thing and I don't want to be dealing with the water. Well, who are you talking to? Who are you going to tell to turn off the rain? You didn't design it, you know? I mean, in all seriousness, what's going on around here? People trying to think they're in charge of something. Cool, that lasts until it doesn't. Oh, Wow, everything ends? Wow. Except for the one only eternal truth that there is, Jesus the Christ. Don't believe me, but what else are you going to do? Jump from thing to thing, you know? There only is what there is, brother, and so we didn't design any of this. But we've been given the opportunity to experience it as it is. So, we only got one Earth, brother. Shout out to Lilo and Stitch. Seriously. Disney. I'm not joking about this kind of stuff, dude. Sometimes I start to sound like I'm just throwing silly things out. I talk about things that sound silly because that way you can see how real it is. You know, I like to make things sound silly intentionally. Right? We didn't design it, brother. We don't get to decide how it works. Can I just sound like I'm whining for the rest of my life? I'd like to. You know? So, that's what we'll say. We'll talk about things as we do, you know, because all we're talking about is the truth. I'm a lyricist. So check this out, bro. Knock you out cold. I don't know. You know what I'm saying, dude? So we're in the Image Clothing Company. We're out here speaking truth, brother. Messing up as we do it. How's that? I've done a lot, though, man, to damage the earth in the ways that I have in my past. And, you know, I didn't know what I was doing, but I still did it. You can't be held accountable for what you don't know, but at the same time, you did what you did, and you can't take it back. It's that double bind. Yeah. So, in the Image Clothing Company podcast, check it out, brother. Hey, what? You already did. Episode 62. We're back at it, brother. Back at it since when? It's like we took a break. I think I made an episode yesterday. It's 2 days ago, maybe. Oh, man. We only get one of them, dude. We only got one Earth. I said I was done, but who knows? This thing, I am going to look at this just for a second. It says 20% battery. We're good. I mean, we got some time. If that's like 3 seconds, because this phone that is telling me that there's 20% battery might just decide that it's going to shut off right now, you know? I mean, I don't know. I didn't design it. I don't get to decide that, hey, just because it says 20%, that means I got X amount of time left. Who knows? Someone designed this little piece of, you know, technology, but it might just, you know, be saying it's got 20% battery, but it might actually only last for another 20 seconds rather than like, maybe if typically the 20% actually meant like 30 minutes, right? And so what? Am I going to get all upset about it if it cuts off because like I thought I knew what was going on? I have no idea how this thing works. I didn't design this cell phone. I don't decide how it works, dude. I got no idea what's going on when this thing's doing its thing. I got no idea how I can sit here and film an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast and some person over in Botswana, you know, in Africa can hear this kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, no matter what, anywhere. I'm just saying, I don't know how any of that kind of stuff works, dude. I didn't design it. There's someone out there pretty smart technology-wise. Put these little things together we call cell phones in modern 2025, you know? Call them smart for a reason. They do a lot of functions. I do not know how they work. Right now, me sitting here, current time, I don't. But I don't need to. You know what I mean? It's like what I was saying with those scientists. I mean, you can go out there trying to figure out how everything's working all you want. But then what? You know? I mean, I can sit here and try to be like, all right, I'm going to do all this research and see how my cell phone works. But then by the time I learn about it, they've got new technology. You know? You're out there being a scientist, you spend your entire life devoted to trying to, like, wrap your mind around something. Try to wrap your mind around your mind. That's something you didn't design. Our God designed our brains. You're going to try to figure out how that thing works? A lot of people are trying to. But, you know, I mean, it's like a computer trying to figure out how it works, you know? The human being trying to figure out how the human being works. You need to design yourself. I mean, there's a lot we can do, and there's a lot of beneficial stuff, you know, that we can learn about, but we can't decide how it is. You know, we can just kind of, like, understand it to degrees, but, I mean, it's crazy, man. People trying to make things be something, you know? People trying to figure out how to make plants grow without the sun. So, keep on trying. Because then next thing you know, now your body that's only designed to work being given nutrients through a natural way by the plants growing from the natural way, from the sun, doing its natural thing, that we didn't design any of that. Your body's going to have complications. Sure, maybe you can try to figure out how to make something that you want to call a plant grow out of some kind of way that's not quite exactly how it would naturally do it. But now what? Now you got to address the human body. Because there's no point in like trying to grow plants to be able to eat if they're not going to benefit your body. Right? So now if they're damaging your body because they're not how they were naturally designed to be, and so your body's digestive system's not working the way that it's naturally designed to work, now you're back to square one again, right? I mean, it's the human being. It's the human condition. Trying to be better than we are. We're never going to be anything more than we are. We're just human beings. It's good that we don't know. So, I mean, we didn't design anything, really, man. I mean, we didn't. I mean, everything just goes back to what it was eventually. But again, without complications, the answer is no. There's always complications. So that's the whole thing. I mean, you got people out there just street racing out of nowhere, but it's illegal in the area, and all of a sudden something is out of whack and people are thinking they can decide what they want to do, but only for a short period of time. Once those people either wreck or get stopped by the law enforcement and thrown in jail or whatever, all the chaos that was happening because they were trying to decide for something to be how it was goes back to just the way that the, road system's designed to be until something else pops up that thinks it can be different than the design. You know what I mean? Well, let's focus on this for just about a second or two. I don't know, it might be like 45 minutes. We'll see. This phone might cut off right now, or it might be like 3 a.m. all of a sudden, and I'm still filming this, I don't even know what time it was for sure when I started, but let's say it was like midnight, who knows? I don't know, bro. I'm just sitting here on the ground. Listen to this, though. The human body only does what it does, right? Don't let me tell you something. But here's the thing. People going out there doing workouts, right? You didn't design this body. You can't decide that it's all of a sudden going to, like, gain 30 pounds of muscle mass, which doesn't change the functionality of the muscles, by the way. All it does is get them larger physically, hypertrophy, right? I mean, you can train them to be so strong to do a certain motion, but you stop doing that motion, and they're just going to go back to their only normal, the only way they're designed to be, which you can't decide to change, but maybe for a short time, right? You can decide to go 150 miles an hour on the freeway until you hit a pole, right? Or until you get stopped by the officer, and now you're going from 150 to 0 real quick, spike strips or whatever it comes to, pop the tires, the car stops. Run out of gas, you're on a police chase. You're out there thinking you can go as far as you want, as fast as you want. That only happens until the vehicle that you didn't design doesn't have any fuel in it anymore because it used it all. Now you got to stop moving. You got no say. You can't decide. The human body, I mean, yeah, you're sitting here. Look at my biceps. Those of you watching this in visual, is this impressive or what? Right? I just got some muscle, dude. I mean, it's just a piece of flesh that's going to operate a piece of bone. I just want to make it so silly. Please don't be impressed by my muscles, even if I do start working out at certain times, because I kind of think maybe that'll happen. Maybe, just for context or something, because I used to work out. I gained like 15 pounds of muscle mass at a certain time. A couple months is all it took me, because I was like dedicated into just gaining muscle mass. But now it's gone. So where'd it go, right? Well, back to the only normal, the way the body's designed to work that we didn't decide. So you can decide to do all the workouts you want until you stop, right? Like the car. It's going all so fast and whatever because you decided to until the spike strips hit it, until the gas runs out. You can decide to get your muscles so much bigger than they would just naturally be until you stop working out, and it goes back to this, right? My body works better than most every other human on the earth. It's not about me, but it's because I know how to allow it to do the only thing it's going to do. You're doing all those workouts, but then all of a sudden, you got more pain, You're sitting there doing mobility work and trying to rehab your shoulders that you got shoulder impingement into, right? Your knees with the chondromalacia patella, that runner's knee, IT band syndrome. It's all fake. You just tried to do something that you wanted to decide to something you didn't design. The body only does what it does. Don't let me tell you something. I'm trying to just tell you the truth, though. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully by now. I don't have hopes. I'm just saying, that's the point. It's the point of In the Image Clothing Company, bro, to spread truth. So we didn't design it. Like, I just start, like, laxing out, you know what I mean? I put my arms up here on the windowsill, look all cool. How cool am I? Knowing I'm not in charge, right? That's the people we like, bro. The people who know that they're not in charge of stuff. And so they sit back and watch everybody argue about who's in charge until they actually just... I mean, nobody's in charge, bro. That's why I like to sit back, because it proves that point. But it's not my point to prove. It just proves the truth. You know? People sitting there arguing about something for 45 minutes, I'll say, all right, cool, give me a bag of chips. Once they're done, now I'm not only fed, but I don't have to be fed up with the conversation because I was never a part of it. Because I didn't design the fact that the human being needs food, but I can decide to just eat some chips while the other people are trying to figure out where to go to eat. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I mean, how real do we want to get? Because this is just how it is, bro. I mean, this is what I'm talking about when I say we speak undisputed universal truths for eternity. It's not me. It's not my opinion. Don't believe Evan Strong. Like, please don't. Like, I mean it. How real you want to get with this kind of stuff? We didn't design stuff, and so we can't decide it. The earth is just what it is, though, and that's the big thing I'm focusing on within this episode of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast, episode 62. We didn't design it. We can't decide it. Because we only get one Earth. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to fly to Mars, and then what? The reason you're flying out to Mars to try to populate it, let's say, right? That's the thing that's been talked about past, past decades even, but especially past few years. And we've flown certain things that we've put together, little Lego pieces we put into this Mars rover, and we sent over to this other planet that's over there. Great, we did that. But why? I mean, if you're trying to go populate another planet because you ruined this one, do you see that ending? Because it's not going to. You're going to go populate that planet because it's all nice and fresh. Yeah. So was the continent you're on that's now toxified. You know what I mean? So was the whole Earth. Until human beings came. It was fresh. It was new. Right? The perfect state. Perfect place. The Garden of Eden. I mean, you go somewhere, dude, like a wildlife refuge. I mean, you go somewhere on the earth that's like a protected area that's still there, like a national forest or something, like a rescue place, or like some place that, you can't really go in here without like getting special permission because it's supposed to stay unaltered because just about no other place on the earth is. That's how the earth was and would and will be if human beings don't and didn't and wouldn't have been here. But, we're supposed to be. I mean, it's prophesied. It is what it is. Don't let me tell you something. But I didn't design it. I can't decide it. Look around. It's the truth of all things, the gospel of Jesus Christ. There you go. How real do you want to get? Because I like truth. I don't care about anything else. Just like me, this weird face. I'm just being real with this. You know what I'm saying? So please know what I'm saying. Please. I just start like pleading. I don't care. Meaning, I can't change you. But I can sure speak the truth. And mess up while I do it, you know what I mean? Sinful by nature. I mean, the paradoxical gospel of Jesus Christ. Let's take care of our earth, but at the same time, let's read the prophecies because everything's supposed to get so crazy before our living God returns. It always comes back to the human condition. We're never going to be better than we are. That's what I said earlier. Yeah. You don't believe me, though, right? I'm going to check this. We still at 20%? We're still at 20%. Who knows? I mean, maybe this is the longest episode of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast to ever be. And I want it to be as silly as it is. Because I want it to be as real as it is. And a lot of times we're looking at people and we can't comprehend how they're just so like, and we're doing this, like, what, like this double take, like, what are you, brother? Like, these people are just like so flamboyantly, rambunctiously, out of the ordinarily they're different than the rest of these people that we've seen across the street. When we're crossing streets, often we're just looking at our phones and these people are alone sitting in the corner of their home, but they're fine and like everybody else is trying to be around somebody they don't want to be around. You know what I mean? How real do we get? The point being, we're looking at people sometimes, brother, and they just are what they are because they know it. They know it's like, I'm never going to be nothing better than this, so might as well. Shout out to Jim Carrey. He's an actor. You know what else he is, though? He's a human being, and so am I. So, just start getting extra weird. I'll get into my Jim Carrey impressions all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying? I didn't design my being, so I can't decide to be something besides the thing that I'm. Besides the thing that what, though? You know what I mean? I mean, we're all looking around thinking, like, what can I make of all this? What can I turn this into? You know? How can I better this thing that I didn't design? The way you're going to be able to not do that is that's the way. You can't. I mean, things are just what they are. How silly can I get? How real can I get? You think I'm over here like high on some drugs because I'm sounding all weird, making weird voices and making weird faces and saying all these controversial topics and saying don't believe me as if like, who is this kid? Well, I don't know. That's a really good point because I don't need to. That's what I'm saying. I'm just what I am. I can sit here and try to dissect all this and that and that and this and what's caused me to be these things and those things and how do I improve on this and that and this person's so good at that and so should I be, and you can say all that you want and all that you think you can do. Sure, you can try, but how about just like don't worry about it. Take the focus off yourself. Put it on Jesus Christ. Right? I mean it. You can sit there, you got a car that just works and does this thing or whatever, but you're trying to, enhance things and advance things and make things better and faster and bigger and whatever. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got a way of doing something, but you just want it to be more always. Well, why? I mean, people don't even know what's in their backyard, right? Shout out to Jack Johnson. Meet the Moonlight is one of his songs. It goes something like, you can meet the moonlight. It's waiting in your own backyard. I don't know if that's like quite the tune or whatever, but similar, definitely similar to that. Jack Johnson, man, he's someone who talks a lot about, people going over here and over there. I mean, I'm living here in the United States of America, but I've never been to Europe. You know where I've never really been is my own backyard. People sitting there, knowing they can get on a plane or a boat and go across the way to wherever they want to go. But we're not looking at things, bro. Things are right in front of us, so it doesn't matter where you're gonna go. You're not gonna see it. I mean, we didn't design this place, so we can't decide what it's gonna be. I mean, yeah. People get really blinded and really lost by living in a city. There's no such thing as a city. I mean, it's just accumulation of metal, bricks and wood, glass, plastic. Heated up, shrunk down, molded, formed, and placed into these things that we call something until it decomposes again. I mean, we didn't design this place, but a lot of people are trying to decide how it works. A lot of people are sitting in their cities, and they're looking around and they're like, trying to make things be something that they never can be. And then you place somebody out into nature and they think they've gone somewhere foreign. But that's the only place that's your actual home, is the earth. We only get one of them. You can take a little section of this planet and, pieces and parts of the planet that was there before you, and you can put it together in whatever form you want it to be and shape it as what you want to label as a city. Sure. But for how long? Not really up to you, right? Because you didn't design the earth. And so you don't get to decide when the earthquakes are going to come or not, or the tsunami, right? So you built that beautiful building, sure, but the earth wants it back. So all of a sudden you got like a 7.9 earthquake Richter scale measurement. And all your hard work is still the thing it was in the beginning. It just looks a little different to you now, right? I mean, pulled from the clay and we return to it. I mean, we're just earth. So is everything that we try to place together. This beautiful guitar, man, I'm grateful for it as what it is, but I mean, if I were to just take this thing and go dig a little 2-inch hole I mean, how silly do we want to get? You know what I mean? I go throw this thing in the pile of dirt in the backyard and wait 15 years and come look at it again, and it's not going to be much left of it. But it's the same thing at that point as it is now. It's just earth. But it's just kind of shaped a little bit different, you know what I mean? I mean, the tree just takes part of the earth and uses it to grow more of what it is. And then they cut the tree down, and you got a top wood, you got some side wood, the back wood, you got a neck of a guitar, a fretboard, a headstock, you know, a bridge. There's a guitar, you know? I mean, and then all parts of it is the same thing. I mean, even the metal that's making up the frets of the guitar, like, it's just minerals that they've taken from the earth and melted them down and put them together and made a what they call a mold out of something else and poured it into that thing, and there's some frets for guitar, but all those minerals are still there, you know? You go put them in the backyard and let all the composting that just naturally does happen to it. You don't got to do anything, and it's going to go back to just what it was, but it never changed. It just is what it is, dude. We only get one Earth. We didn't decide how things work. We can't design them. Wait. It's on both ends now. How do we want to look at this, you know? Because I'd rather not have to. I'd rather just live. Right? Where are we at battery-wise? It says 10%. What does that mean? You know, I can't tell you for sure right now because I didn't design the processing of that phone. I don't know. I can't decide exactly how much battery it's going to take for it to somehow document the words that are coming out of my mouth, which doesn't even make any sense, right? Because, yeah, sure, I've been told that they're called sound waves and that I have eardrums that can receive those things, but I can't see that stuff. I can't quite feel sound waves as far as I know until the subwoofer of a car comes and I feel it in my chest. My whole rib cage is all of a sudden moving with the bass, you know? I mean, what is all this stuff? You know what I mean? How can I speak right here? My cell phone that I'm using, it's not mine. I mean, again, what is this thing? I throw it in the backyard, come back 3 years later, and it's halfway decomposed. Like, it's just a piece of earth, but somehow we call it a cell phone. And somehow it's like capturing the sound that I'm speaking. But then, like, well, I mean, it's like you speak into a jar, you know, and hurry and put the lid on it. And, like, you hope that 10 years down the road you can open it up and hear the word you said. Or, like, you're screaming into it, and seal it up, right? And your grandkids open it, and it's like, this is the scream of your of your grandma, kids. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know what I'm saying? I don't even know. Because I don't know. I don't know how this is working, dude. I don't know how I can sit here and just talk into a cell phone. But I didn't design it, so I can't really decide how it works. It's just doing what it's doing. Somebody made it to do the thing that I'm using it for. Hey, check this out. Somebody made the earth for us human beings to use it, what we use it for, and as we use it. But only the way it's designed. Otherwise, we're trying to alter it. But if I try to alter this cell phone and get it to do something that it's not going to do, I'm probably not going to have it be able to do the thing that the person that designed it to do that thing is doing. You know what I mean? I mean, my cell phone's probably not going to work. If I'm trying to get it to do something else, I don't know how to operate on this thing, right? I mean, I've had 2 full-on open heart surgeries and plus 4 other heart surgeries. I mean, if I were to try to do that to myself, like, shoo, I probably would have messed up my whole system, my whole circulatory system of my body. All of a sudden it's not working, you know, but somebody else, what they did is that they learned how the thing was designed. And then since mine had a problem with it and it wasn't quite working how it was designed, they just got it back to the state that it's supposed to be in. You know, they didn't try to get it to do anything else. Right? I mean, take it with a grain of salt, and we got to see things for as they are, is the point. I mean, what do you want to do, you know? Like, we only get one Earth, brother. We only get one body. We only get one chance. Unless you're flying to Mars, bro. But then you only get one chance there, right? And then what? Where does that end? Well, it can end before it starts if we're intentional. If we just see things for as they are. We didn't design this, so the best thing we can do is stop trying to decide how it works. take everything that we can out of our hands and put it in the one who molded it, right? The sculptor of the only truth that there is, the only reality that there is when we get out of our game room, put down that headset, the game controller, right? Turn off the TVs and the consoles, right? Sometimes you can be in a house with lights on all night long and not even realize that it's dark outside. But where do we want to go, with this discussion? Because I can sit here and say this kind of stuff for the rest of my battery percentage on the cell phone I didn't design. So I can't actually decide how long I talk and have this be recorded without being interrupted. It's out of my control, you know what I'm saying? Can we realize things are just what they are, brother? If I get cut off, though, I get cut off. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes there's just nothing we can do about it. Because unless I were to figure out how to go out of this frame, to go, out of the thing that I'm doing here, recording episode 62 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled We Didn't Design It, We Can't Decide It, and go try to find like a piece of cord to plug into the bottom of this thing and place into the wall outlet. Unless I do that thing, this thing's just gonna crash, right? Without me having a say over it. But even if I did try to go do that thing, this thing could die before then. Check this out. You're driving down the highway in a vehicle and you think you're all safe and whatever because you think you're in control, but then somebody else cuts you off. We didn't design it. We can't decide it. But here's the thing, you wake up in a hospital bed and you're all mangled up, but you're still alive. Did you decide that? Because you were unconscious that whole time, From the moment of the crash until you see that person's face kind of like getting farther away from yours after they just gave you mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to keep you alive. Did you decide for them to do that for you, right? Or is there some grand design that sometimes things happen that we can never fully wrap our heads around? Can we be okay with that? Can we be okay with not deciding how things work? Just knowing that they do. Anyway, this is episode 62 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. We're a clothing company after all, so we're going to, give you clothing, at least, the opportunity to purchase some clothing that's made out of 100% natural materials and it stays centered, it fits correct, it allows the body to work. Purchase in your size, though, if you ever do. You don't have to purchase it at all, but if you ever do, don't, if you're going to get it oversized, right? It's going to damage your body that we didn't design, so we can't decide to just, wear something oversized. Yeah, without complications, bro. Right? So, anyway, it's the 17th of February, 2025. I love to just sit here and discuss the truth of all things, the gospel of Jesus Christ. So, don't believe me, but a lot of people got a lot of questions. Right? A lot of them don't need to be asked in the first place, but a few of them are very important. Who are you? Where did you come from? And where are you going? And what are we supposed to be doing here? And what actually matters? And how do I actually have lasting eternal joy? And how do I ever feel content when things are crazy? And if I don't know where to turn, the answer to everything is Jesus Christ. Don't believe me, but it's the truth of all things. Some good news. The word gospel, literally translated. Okay? So you got a problem with us? You got a problem with us? You got a problem with me? You got a problem with Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company? Or you got a problem with In the Image Clothing Company? Stick around, right? Because we didn't design it. Didn't design it. All right, man. In many ways, I'm hypocritical because I'll be all of a sudden doing something on accident or maybe intentionally out of anger or frustration or out of like, I'll get back at you for whatever, to who or what. But, you know, ideally, all of us are doing all that we can to take care of the only earth we're going to have. I mean, what, you're going to make a new earth, you know? We ruined this one, shoot. Let's hurry and whip another one up. What? It's not going to happen, you know? We designed this place, and it's beautiful. Oh, is it beautiful? More beautiful than anything we're ever going to cook up in a lab. So, let's take care of it, bro. I mean, I've done my fair share of damaging the environment, let me tell you. You know, you don't gotta let me at all, but I just did. I'm gonna just push through to the front of the line, bro. You don't gotta tell me I'm okay to be doing something. But you didn't design the way that this structure works. As far as like, you know, you walking into some place and there's a way it's gonna work, dude. You know, you got people on the registration list, you know. You didn't design that registration, but you're trying to decide that you're gonna get to the front of the line. Complications, brother. It's always complications. It's always stuff that comes back to bite us in ways we don't understand, because sometimes we're just not aware of what's going on, dude. You know, we're sitting there, we're struggling with things that we can't even understand where this could be coming from. Then we look 30 years back. Oh, yep, I did do that, didn't I? Darn, shoot, that's why I'm experiencing what I am today, right? Things just work how they do. There's grand design. We're not the ones that did it. I'm gonna cry, which is fine, you know. The body's designed with some emotions, so I can't decide to just never cry if I feel like I need to. Otherwise, you pop, dude. Complications, brother. We're designed with emotions, so let's experience them, right? You choose to do whatever you want until you can't anymore. There comes a day in every man's life when it's no longer there. You know what I'm saying? If you don't, one day, man, you'll be waking up at the feet of our God saying, wow. We're all going to be saying, wow. Hopefully in a good way, though, out of, like, majesty. No joke. Like, I've been waiting for this, you know? Because we didn't design it. So, thank you. I'm going to stop it right there. I'm very grateful. This is episode 62 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. There's a lot of stuff that we didn't design, so we can't decide how it works. Okay? No matter how opinionated we get or how much we want something, how much we believe something should be something else, if it's not going to be that, it's not going to be that. Spend your whole life trying to change something, but if it's not going to happen, then you've wasted your whole time on this planet as a human being. Because you've denied the only truth that there is, the gospel of Jesus Christ. If you ever had the ability to hear about it and know it, and you chose out of your own being to try to just believe it's not true, truth is truth. Don't believe me. I didn't design it. I can sit here feeding you all the garbage I want, but that's what we're doing in our modern man-made existence in 2025. How about we just walk out into nature and say, no matter what, if I try to tell that bear not to eat me, if he's hungry and he's mad at me, he's going to eat me, right? You know what I'm saying? You didn't design how that bear works. It's a mother protecting her cub, a sow bear with her cute little 3-month-old kid. And you're next to her, and she's all defensive about it. What? You're just going to decide to say that she should not be all upset because you're right about something? You're not going to be there to be right or wrong in a second or two when that bear gets his chompers around your skull. You know what I mean? How real do we want to get, bro? We didn't design this kind of stuff. Meaning anything. We really didn't. We really didn't. So, really the only thing we can actually decide to do is surrender to the truth. That's why I always say, you know, we talk about agency within the gospel of Jesus Christ, but it's only on one end. We can only choose out of our own doings to harm ourselves. But we can try to stop deciding things and just realize that someone designed them. Just understand instead of trying to make all these choices. The illusion of control. You know what I'm saying, brother? So, yeah. Yeah, brother. Yeah, we didn't design it. We didn't design it. You don't believe there's a higher power out there? Well, you don't need to. It's just the truth. It's all coming crashing down, bro. I mean it. I mean, again, what? Am I smoking something? You know what I mean? Am I sitting here like crazy? Am I on some kind of drugs? Do I have some kind of opinion, you know? Am I trying to preach like a man-made religion? No, I'm speaking the truth of all things, and it's harsh. Go spend a week out there in the wilderness by yourself. Maybe you can't. Might not last that long. Truth is rough, dude. It's real. It's a little bit raw-edged. So, a lot of people are living in a lot of made-up societies, and when they get a little bit of truth, rattles them around a little bit, brother. Ruffles their feathers, you know, grinds their gears. So, yeah, it's my first day on the job, dude. Just still learning how to be a human being. Because I didn't design it. I didn't design what it meant to be a human being, so I can't decide what it means to be a human being, you know? I'm just here, just riding the waves until the water's calm and clear. And then what? You know? Go out there, hope that it's a nice day with some good surf, you know? You'd hope all you want. You go out there and there's no waves. What, dude? What are you gonna do? You gonna freak out about it? You know? You're gonna hope, right? Like I was saying, hope on the weather all you want. Keep hoping. We didn't design it. You're not gonna decide what it's like. Yup. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, could I have just decided to not be born with a hole in my heart, and so I didn't have to go through surgeries for them to repair it in order to be able to continue through life from that point on, you know? But also, did I decide to be born in this time period where the operations that they did on my heart at times in my lives couldn't have even happened if it was only a few years before? And I would have just died, right? I mean, did I decide those things? No. Right? No. It's stuff like that. I mean, how real do you want to get? I'd like some truth. Not only some truth, but the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ, restored through the gospel of Jesus Christ's true church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Don't believe me. Right? Who's this kid claiming he knows how the human body works, sitting on the floor making silly episodes of podcasts, wasting our time, or X amount of who knows into it, because I don't. I'm not looking at the time right now. I can't see it. You know, I explained in one of the past episodes, I cover the time up, and I said at the beginning of this a little bit, I don't know, dude, I'm just sitting here. What if there's no time? Right? How real you want to get? Because that's my goal. Putting myself aside entirely, as if I didn't even exist. What would be here without me? Maybe I'll go spend a week in the woods by myself, you know what I mean? Might not come back. Because I enjoy it so much, you know? Like, let's flip the script at the end, you know? I mean, a lot of times that happens, though. Flip gets scripted. That's an example right there, brother. So, yeah. I love it, dude. So much. All right. It's unreal, dude. That's what it is, though. It is. It's the unreal.